Knock it!
Back in 2004, Disney Pixar introduced us to the Parrs, Brad Bird's family of superheroes driven into hiding. It's inarguably one of the best Pixar movies to date, which, considering Pixar's track record, is indeed an incredible feat.
See what I did there?
Structurally, the movie is pretty complex for a family-oriented movie. The characters are well fleshed out and relatable, and although it successfully satirizes the superhero genre, it's also come to be regarded as an incredible superhero movie in itself.
Alright, that's enough.
Not only did this spawn a popular sequel a short 14 years later,
Perhaps you've heard of it.
but way back in 2004, Disney Interactive presented us with a movie tie-in video game for the PlayStation 2 based on the original movie. The question is the game as incredible as the movie?
Sorry, I couldn't resist. I'll stop now, I promise.
Actually, to my surprise, this game holds up considerably well. My first observation was that the graphics are fairly impressive considering the game's age. What's more, the environments are impressive. The team behind this did a great job mimicking the film's look and ambience, which is further enhanced by a surprisingly compelling soundtrack. In many respects, it's just like the movie, but what about the gameplay? Is the gameplay just as incredible?
I lost my thesaurus, okay? Cut me some slack.
Sadly, this is where the game loses a few points. It's far from terrible, but there's sometimes a lack of fluidity in the mechanics, which makes battle and stealth sequences feel a little clunky. But we'll talk about that later. The game opens during a bank heist, and it's up to Mr. Incredible to find and stop the evil Bon Voyage from wreaking havoc on the city, with the help of his stereotypically French henchmen.
I don't have a stutter or anything, that is exactly what I said.
And I have to say, I love their exaggerated French death noises.
Here's a standard death noise. Now, en français. Bon.
Yo, what are you waiting for?
At this stage, Frozone informs you of the basics. Pressing square will inflict regular punches, while triangle unleashes Incredi moves, which can be powered up by collecting the eyes dotted around the place. This punch was brought to you by the letter I. Furthermore, inflicting damage and building up combos will also increase the Incredimeter.
Or as the French call it, Incredimeter.
Reaching and sustaining the highest combo level will automatically fill your Incredimeter. I actually really like these early levels. It feels as though you're playing a missing scene from the movie, or a prequel or something. Some of the combat can feel a little stiff at times, but it's nothing horrendous. Mr. Incredible has a variety of moves that more than makes up for any shortcomings. Not only can he punch stuff, he can shimmy along ledges and yank enemies off. Crouching before performing a move can have a number of outcomes depending on what other button you press simultaneously. You can perform a ground smash, an uppercut, roll, dodge backwards, or simply jump really high. It's pretty satisfying, and the most impressive aspect of this is that these moves can come in pretty handy. So yeah, there's very little in your list of moves that you'll never use. See, that's how you do it at Bug's Life. To hell with your useless kick attack.
Bet you didn't even know Flick could kick. That rhymed.
As an additional note, in each level there are 3 bonus items to acquire, which provide you with movie clips and concept art in the gallery. The next level sees you take control of Elastigirl, with the goal being to kick some French derriere.
No, really, that's literally it. This level has no real goal.
In truth, this level's existence is only justified by the tutorial for Elastigirl, and I must say her moves are pretty satisfying. That is, once you've amassed enough power for a strong Incredi move. Prior to that, fighting is a little awkward, as your combos are all too often cut short by a close-range attack. Sometimes you can essentially become a human punching bag, and your best bet is often to run in the opposite direction when a mob appears.
It's okay, I needed a good run to stretch my legs. Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
Elastigirl's combat truly shines from a distance. She can punch enemies far away and even throw them into each other. She can also cling to things to swing or be carried to new locations, which is pretty neat. Now seems like a good time to talk about the voiceovers. Very few voiceovers besides the kids Violet and Dash are the same actors as in the movie, but the cast they got to replace them aren't bad at all. Mr. Incredible's voiceover sounds surprisingly like Craig T. Nelson, and if I'm not mistaken, Samuel L. Jackson returns as Frozone. Good old Sam. While the woman voicing Elastigirl does a decent job at replacing Holly Hunter, particularly considering her unique vocals, although sometimes she can sound like a female Sean Connery.
My mother warned me about days like this.
I'm actually curious to know who voiced her. Wait, E.G. Daily?
You mean...
Where's my reptile puzzle?
Yep, it's Tommy Pickles, everyone! Daly's vocals are pretty diverse.
You might say she's flexible. I went there.
After Mrs. Pickles makes it to a brick wall,
What an achievement!
Bon Voyage plants a bomb on Buddy's cape.
Knock it!
Just like in the movie, Mr. Incredible fights to remove it. Then we have our first major boss fight. Sorry, what was that? I think maybe you and Fairy Godmother need to practice making evil monologues in places we can actually bloody hear them. Anyway, this boss is pretty standard and repetitive. After firing gunshots and missiles at you, Bon Voyage will then throw bombs at you.
Bombs? Oh shit, I didn't see that coming!
Before they detonate, it's up to you to throw them back at his chopper.
Of course, our supervillain enemies are supervillains for a reason. I'm sure he'll wise up to the fact that his bombs are backfiring. Oh, of course not. I'm forgetting all Disney bosses are stupid as fuck. Fortunately for me.
Then we jump ahead 15 years and join Mr. Incredible and Frozone in Moonlighting. This level truly captures the Inferno scenes from the movie, only they added some really annoying arsonists with flamethrowers just to make the level more unnecessarily irritating than it needed to be. Why are they here anyway? The building's already on fire.
Don't you think you're kind of overdoing it?
The look of this level is great, and I wanted to love it, but the combat is pretty frustrating when you can't get too close to the arsonists without the flamethrowers constantly knocking you back, sometimes sending you flying off the balcony into the flames. Also, Mr. Incredible isn't particularly agile. Swinging back and forth doesn't feel as fluid as it should. Even so, this is the most intense level so far. The atmosphere is nothing short of exhilarating.
Can't wait to see what the next level holds.
Dash, hurry up. You'll be late for school.
Okay, well that's a bit of a contrast.
Indeed, this level sees Dash race against the clock and the school bus to make it in time for school. Weaving in and out of traffic, this level is nothing but fun. Okay, so it's one of only a few levels to not be based on a scene from the movie, but I can understand why they included it. Not only does the constant alternating of characters prevent the gameplay from becoming too stale, but this also helps the player to become accustomed to controlling Dash, which will come in handy later. This level also features a cameo from Pixar's ubiquitous Pizza Planet truck, which is a nice touch, especially considering it was unusually absent in the movie. And where the hell is this school? I've been running for fucking miles.
I swear to God we must be in another state by now.
Ah, finally, here we are.
Oh great, you forgot your school bag, pillock. Back we go.
Okay, so now the game gets interesting as we join Mr. Incredible on Namana-san. And I have to once again give credit to the developers for creating an environment much like that in the movie. What's more, Mr. Incredible's, physique, shall we call it, has, fluctuated somewhat since the, old days, just like in the movie.
Forgot you've gotten fat.
It's little touches like this that really help to absorb the player, in my opinion.
Our turrets will attack any threat that is near.
Here, Mirage gives you occasional information on a robot you'll encounter, of which there are many. While this level is interesting, the constant barrage of rapid-fire lasers becomes a little tiresome. The object is simply to make your way deeper into the dense jungle in pursuance of the Omnidroid. Around this point in the game, there seems to be a major difficulty spike. One part sees you having to control a turret to destroy this big ship thing and its missiles, which would be okay if they actually gave you some warning that this was going to happen. They just leave you to your own devices, and devices you don't even know how to use. Eventually, we find the Omnidroid and commence the first battle. This level is fantastic. Okay, so it's a little routine and repetitive, but it looks almost just like the scene in the movie. See Shrek 2? That's how you do it, and it's satisfying enough to play, particularly when the Omnidroid eventually unveils new moves and extended attacks, learning, just as it did in the movie.
I'm learning.
After disabling the Omnidroid, we return to the island in our shiny new supersuit. I find it pretty interesting that this game completely omits Jack, Jack, and Edna, who would later become some of the major breakout characters of the franchise. You just turn up in a new suit without any explanation here. What's more, this level frankly confuses me. It seems to be one of the few not based on a scene from the movie, and it kind of ruins a streak of levels inspired by the film, as Syndrome's henchmen are introduced a little prematurely. I mean, why would they be attacking now? These guys are about as good at remaining undercover as the pirates in Treasure Planet.
That is not good at all.
Target inside! Target inside!
Target inside!
I'm wearing bright fucking red. I should think the target's in sight.
Again, though, their death noises are something else.
I take it they've been taking lessons from Buzz too.
Use the Velocipod to destroy the towers for some reason, and we then take out the other bad guys on the balcony. Eventually, we come across a massive tank mini-boss, sadly one of many. This is where the game becomes a little stagnant in places. From this point onwards, your main enemies are henchmen, and these robot tanks make numerous appearances, which wouldn't be so bad if the fight didn't go on for so fucking long! It's not particularly difficult, but you can't attack the tank yourself until it reaches the end of its cycle of attacks and fires a bomb at you. Where have we seen that before? Of course, it being a robot, one would think it would know not to fire more bombs your way.
Nope.
Yeah, don't worry about these things wising up to your tricks. The Omnidroid might be a learning robot, but these things are pretty damn stupid. Fortunately for you. Soon we make it to Great Falls and encounter the larger, improved Omnidroid. This fight is very similar to the one that preceded it, only it's a little harder considering the robot's size. And it's learned one more move. A whopping one.
Consider me lord!
After this level, you unlock something called Battle Mode, which allows you to play as either Mr. Incredible or Elastigirl, the objective being to fight your way through 9 rounds of enemies in order to achieve extra bonuses. And yes, guess what? More tanks!
Just what we wanted.
We then enter Syndrome's base, even though the game has presented us with no indication of who the hell Syndrome is. In fact, you know what? We never actually see the fully formed Syndrome in-game, let alone fight him. The only time we see Syndrome at all is before he's Syndrome, if you catch my meaning. Anyway, this scene again was in the movie, only the game decided to prolong it by adding, yep, you guessed it, a tank.
How innovative.
This level gets annoying pretty quickly. Syndrome's henchmen constantly get in your way, and the base is filled with laser fields and timing puzzles. Although I do like the fact that the enemies all politely wait for you while you key in some code at the computer terminals.
Take your time.
Well, aren't you a bunch of fine fellows?
Next level sees the return of Mrs. Pickles.
No, not that one. That's the one.
Yes, Mrs. Incredible takes the helm and infiltrates the base herself to locate her imprisoned husband. Once you've accessed the base using the monorail, much of the locations look pretty similar to the previous level, though they look astoundingly similar to the movie's environments. Kudos. It was at this point in the game I realized Mrs. Incredible says the strangest things.
What's the most stereotypically momish thing you can think of to say?
I need a hot bath.
Okay, that was a good one. Yep.
I sure could use a massage.
Can totally see Mr. Incredible saying that.
Leave it to a woman to clean up a man's mess.
Nothing like casual sexism.
Anyway, after this, we get one of my favorite levels, 100 Mile Dash, which sees Dash outrun the Velocipods in a sequence very similar to the movie. My only complaint is that it's not always clear which way the game expects you to go while maneuvering the obstacles on the water, and sometimes this can result in Dash seemingly bumping into nothing. All in all, though, this level is great fun to play. By stark contrast, what follows is Violet's Crossing, the only solo Violet level in the entire game, and the only stealth level, which I do not find fun. Although that's a matter of opinion, really. It is a really nice departure from the standard wham bam smashy smashy technique of Mr. Incredible, but Violet's invisibility is frustratingly limited. Sure, it adds to the difficulty, but the stop-start gameplay feels like such a disappointment after the previous level. But I must say, I am glad they included it, as it's refreshing to see Violet take center stage, even if it is just this once. It's a really nice touch.
I guess you could say, an invisible touch.
The next level combines the powers of both of the Incredikids as they form the Incredible. It's weirdly satisfying knocking your enemies down like bowling pins, and it's great to see Violet's force field at work.
You might say she's on a roll. Oh, stop it! Leave me alone, okay? I'm trying!
Once you've meandered your way through this maze of a level, you're reunited with the Rents.
Great! Now all we have to do is find a rocket and go home.
Houston, we have a problem.
Oh, no. Really?
The power to the entire silo is out. While you make your way to the launch sequence activation panels, I'll re-establish power to the silo.
I don't remember this scene in the movie. This game's padding is thick. Also, I love how everyone just seems to know where everything is in this place. I mean, we've literally just arrived. Where do they find a holiday brochure lying around or something?
While Mr. Incredible runs off to do whatever the game wants us to think he's doing, we join Mrs. Pickles. This might well be my least favourite level. The controls are finicky and the enemies come thick and fast.
Particular emphasis on the thick.
What's more, I find it a little unfair. Often the enemies shoot or fire bombs at you before you've had a chance to even acknowledge their presence, which can often be fatal. As you progress, the obstacles just become more infuriating.
Not my best performance.
Oh, feck off. Eventually, you somehow manage to activate every terminal to re-establish the rocket's power without using a manual or floor plan.
Now that's super.
The penultimate level takes place simultaneously, and is the toughest Mr. Incredible level so far. It's essentially your worst nightmare. More henchmen, more lasers, and yes, more tanks!
Never saw that coming.
There's also a section in which you once again take control of a laser turret, and it's about as fun as the first time we did that. So yeah, it's kind of like a worst of compilation. Everything you hated about this game condensed into one pointless level that wasn't even in the movie. Don't you just love those?
Thank God that's over. The rocket's all ready to go.
Great! I can't fly a rocket.
What?
I can't fly a rocket.
No, I heard what you said. You don't think you could have told me that like an hour ago or something before we even did all this? Well, that was a waste of time.
Regardless, the family heads home, and we come face to interface with Omnidroid 10, which pans out a little differently to previous battles. Your first task is to retrieve Syndrome's remote. While everyone takes it in turns to use it, it's your job to throw rocks at the distracted Gigantobot until finally Mrs. Incredible takes the remote, and you need to guide the Omnidroid's claw into itself, just like in the movie. It's a decent finale to the game, although a little underwhelming compared to some previous battles, and it's a disappointment that Syndrome is never seen. You know, considering he's the main antagonist and everything. There's probably a circle of undefeated Disney game villains plotting revenge somewhere. Ultimately though, it's a satisfying end and doesn't exactly bring the game crashing down.
Yeah. See what I did there?
Snappy!
I have to say I'm pretty surprised at how well this game holds up. The utilization of 4 family members helps vary the gameplay, despite Mr. Incredible's dominance. It's fun to explore the characters' various powers, and if I'm honest, I'd like to have seen Dash and Violet feature more somehow. Despite their flaws, their levels are very interesting. Sometimes the controls can feel a little stiff and awkward, particularly, Mrs. Pickles.
Oh, grow up and suck a lollipop.
But it's a pretty satisfying experience regardless. Only a handful of flaws prevent this Disney Pixar PS2 tie-in from being...
Don't say it. Don't say it. Incredible!